This is an Australian Living Labs Innovation Network presentation. Our mission is to promote living labs in Australia, develop the practitioner base, and foster collaboration opportunities with living labs everywhere. Today we're talking with Associate Professor Sonja Pedell, who is also the Director of the Future Self Living Lab, which is hosted by the Centre for Design Innovation at Swinburne University of Technology.
So you've talked a bit about the emotional design process. I'm wondering what other kind of co-creation and co-design processes you use in your living lab.
As we are a School of Design, and I'm also a staff member of the Digital Media Design Department, we work a lot with scenarios, with storyboards, but also with animations. I think there is huge potential in using these media for envisioning ideas that already have come from users, and then it's a mechanism to feed it back into the process. And it's also a mechanism to show emotions and outcomes and future solutions. And I think with all co-creative and user-centered methods, important is how can we really give the end user a strong voice in that process. It's not just gathering people around the table and say or ask what do you want. It's really coming with prototypes and interactive mechanisms and future scenarios that are as visible and tangible as possible, that people can give input, and we have to ask again and again, did we understand you right? Are we on the right track? Give us more feedback. Let us work together on that. And that's where these storyboards and animations of future scenarios can be extremely helpful.
Great, thank you. So I know there's a Twitter account for the lab, but there's also a Twitter account for Kira. So I was wondering if you can tell us a bit about Kira and her wonderful outfits.
Oh, Kira. I should have brought her, or at least one of her outfits. Kira is a 48 centimeter now robot. It's a robot with a humanoid robot. That means she has eyes and limbs and can be very interactive. We bring Kira along very much to aging well groups. I'm not a big fan of the idea to confront people one-on-one with robots. I think that can be very confronting or scary for people, and also it sometimes can raise expectations that I don't think a robot can fulfill. But it's an entertainment mechanism, and I was just curious, what will a robot do if you bring her along, and we built that rich persona around her, and she was immediately embraced by a group of elderly ladies who were knitting and doing crochet, and she has a whole wardrobe here. She has about 20 outfits, and it's still growing, and with hats and skirts and pants and everything you can think of. So I'm jealous about that. We brought her to the man shed, and then immediately she was also measured again for creating some furniture for her that was specifically fit for her. And it is that interesting thing of bringing technology somewhere and see what will happen, which role will people give that technology, and not prescribe and say, this is a robot, let's use it a certain way. And I like bringing it a lot also to the dementia group, where they do weekly exercise, and we have programmed the whole exercise sequence into the robot, and also dances they do, and the robot is there and enhances the setting, and people are more engaged and looking forward to Kira and what the robot is doing. And I think it's just a bit of fun, but it's very nice, because we can see that people really engage that way with the robot, and so much so that they like following her on Twitter.
Great. Okay, thank you. I just want to check I've asked all the questions I sent you, but I think that's it.
Yeah.
Can I quickly ask, because the robot example is really interesting, how does the living lab methodology help to create value out of that interaction between the robot and the people?
I think when we go back to co-creative methods, it's again it's the people who gives a meaning to the interaction. We look at and start always with the interests and the things people have problems with. And for example, in the Aging Well group with the City Wyndham Council, nearly every client there coming has a walker. So what we did then, we created a little 3D printed walker for Kira, and Kira is walking around there with a little walker, and people say, well, why does a robot need a walker? And then we have that discussion, why do you need a walker, or why do you think a robot doesn't need a walker? And again, it's talking about things that are relevant to them and reflecting on what role do we give technology, and why would we think that technology is all capable, and why does an elderly robot maybe doesn't need a walker, and have these discussions around potentially about stigma and things people have to use and might not want to use.
How do you measure the impact of the Living Lab, and maybe how do you intend to over time?
I think it's a very important and interesting question, and I in a lot of projects we can really see, and people tell us that the work we are doing is really important and we have an impact. So on a let's say personal level, you hear a lot, in particular when we do research with older adults living with dementia. It's sometimes difficult to really gauge the impact to have there, and we work a lot with older adults with dementia and social interaction, and impact might mean that it's just there's just a smile within half an hour, or suddenly the gaze and the person looks very, very clear or gives a very clear answer, and it might be just a very, very small point of interaction, but it makes a visiting person like a daughter can make her very happy that small contact has been there, and it's these stories that really encourage us. And when they come and say, I haven't seen him or her so engaged for months, and that's great, but we also face the bigger challenge of how do we really measure it on a population scale and on a community scale. And there's certainly, I'm myself a member of a impact measurement group with ENoLL, and to look more into that topic, how can we come up with solid measurements within Living Labs and Living Lab projects. And I'm very keen to work further on that.
Lovely.